This is Off Screen with Roger Steele. Today, my guest, the CEO of TGL, presented by SoFi, Mike McCarley. Pleasure to have you here today.
Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
It's a good handshake.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
With all the amazing things that are going on with TGL, what gets you most excited about the league?
The one that gets me the most excited is seeing these guys come together as a team and ultimately playing as a team. We just saw it at the President's Cup. We see it every couple of years at the Ryder Cup. They hit a great shot. There's a reaction that they have with their teammates. In talking to the guys, there's an extra level of pressure that they feel when they need to sink the putt. It's a 4-foot putt, but when they turn around and they look and they see a whole team behind them that needs that point, it's more than a 4-foot putt. It means more. And I think the dynamic that'll play out in the environment that we're creating, not just, kind of a pressure cooker with all the eyeballs that are on them in that sort of arena-like environment. It's also the camaraderie that you'll have back and forth, talking about the strategy in an alternate shot format, feeling the pressure of your team and what you need to do to carry a hole because you're playing singles, head-to-head against a guy from another team. And then the dynamic that's going to play out with the team ownership group and the community of fans that are going to get behind these teams as they continue to kind of build their fan bases. We see it across sports that sports are tribal. Team allegiances are passed down generation to generation in communities. We see it in golf every couple of years with the team events, but I think this is going to create over time. This will create that same sort of team atmosphere that's so prevalent in all other sports.
Yeah, and golfers, they do need a bit more accountability, right? You know what I mean? It's one thing to be out there missing putts for yourself, but when you got somebody else that's depending on you to do something, it feels different.
Yeah.
It feels way different.
That's right.
But the other point that you bring up that I love is about the fan experience, because I don't think that we've ever had a team experience where the fans had this much access and insight to what's going on from a dialogue perspective with those players.
They'll see every shot happen in front of them, but every player will have a mic on them. And so they'll hear what they're talking about. And I think there'll be the moments of trash talk that people have talked about, but I think most importantly is the strategy. A shot clock adds a dynamic that they've never felt before, so there's going to be some communication based on that. When you get in a team environment, an alternate shot, they're talking about where do you want me to leave this, or talking about how does this shot play, how does this hole play, what's the dynamic like amongst the team. It's something that you hear on occasion, and fans, we know they want to hear more from the players. And this environment is going to allow for that because everyone has a mic on them, and they're going to be in a close proximity. They're all on the same hole, playing the same hole at the same time. They're looking at the same shots, so you'll be able to hear that. And I think for a fan who's coming into golf for the first time, there's going to be a certain level of kind of demystifying what it is that these guys are able to do. They're obviously great at what they do. They're great at their job. But why are they doing what they do, I think is an element that the fans are going to appreciate even more. That's going to translate into other tournaments and things when they're out playing a traditional 18-hole tournament, across 4 days, because they've learned more about how these guys actually want to execute these shots.
It's going to make us bigger fans of the players, and hopefully for the fans, it's going to turn us into a bit better thinkers around the golf course.
Yeah, maybe we all need that.
A lot of layered value in that.
Yeah.
But look, so as we think about the implications of TGL, what are some of the impacts that you thinking we're going to have on the future of golf with this league?
That's a big question. I think if you think big picture and long term, there are places all around the world where access to the sport is hard. Some areas land is scarce. Some areas it's just hard for a kid to get to a golf course, and it's intimidating. So I think there's creating more access, lessening the intimidation factor, and I think ultimately making golf more attainable for people. It'll take time. And I think the players understand that and are bought into that. The different media partners from around the world, them showing the best players in the world playing on technology that might be available and might be more accessible for people depending on where they live. It's going to send a message that if you play golf at 8 o'clock in bare feet at a Topgolf, you're a golfer. You don't have to be 8 a.m. on the first tee in a pair of spikes.
Yeah.
You can play the same game that these guys are playing, and it doesn't have to be the same traditional game that your grandfather played or your father played. It can be the game that you're playing with your brothers and sisters and friends.
And I'll say, just to piggyback on that, man, over 50% of my golf is non-traditional. Yeah. I'm always in a simulator, living in a seasonal market, or not being able to get my clubs in my hands until nighttime. And to have buy-in from the best players in the world that this is viable, this is, it really adds a much added sense of viability to me spending the time there.
Yep.
And just to think about the extrapolation of that, like, are there implications of like how TGL could maybe grow into something bigger?
I think that's an important point. Most people who play the game, winter, snow, darkness, all of those things become a factor of can I play or not. You can play when there's snow outside and it's late at night, just like every one of the TGL matches it's going to be dark outside because it's primetime television, which means there are people all around the world who are at home able to watch this. And I think the idea of giving them an opportunity to say, this is a form of the game that I can play. You've seen all the same stats that I've seen. There are more people playing golf not on a traditional golf course than there are on a traditional golf course now. Things like simulators and Topgolf and driving ranges, it's really taken off. It started in Asia and now it's moved its way to the States, and I think it's going to continue to move in that direction. The trends are all showing. It's a little bit quicker, it's a little bit easier, it's a little bit more accessible. Not to say that going out and spending 2 to 4 hours playing 9 or 18 holes that's a great way to spend the day, but if you only have an hour and you live in the middle of a city, there's one way for you to play, and this is it.
There's a broad appeal for what TGL is. A lot of people will tune in inevitably, but in your mind, as the originator of all of this, who is TGL actually for?
You want to cast as wide as a net as you possibly can. But if you had to kind of boil it down, there's going to be the golf fan that watches week in and week out because of the caliber of player that's playing. Maybe it's a person that's tuning in last 2 hours on a Sunday when the leaderboard's really good. There's a magic to 2 hours. 2 hours is a basketball game. 2 hours is the final 9 of a great tournament. It's not to say everyone's going to come and stay for the entire time. They may come in for some moments, and part of our job is to create some great moments that people they recognize and they come back to. But it's that sports fan that's tuning in for those kind of time periods to say, I love golf on my terms, and we're trying to create a version of the game that's going to give them more of those terms when they really love golf. And hopefully they get introduced to some personalities and some of the big names of the game that they start to follow it in other places as well.
Yeah, basically what you just said is that it's for everybody. Which you're not supposed to say, but it kind of is, though. It's true, it's true.
Yeah. I think you want to be as broad as possible.
Right.
Nothing is for everybody. You're going to have people who hate it, but they're going to say they hate it, but they're also going to still watch.
Yeah.
And then you're going to have people who say, I don't know if it's for me or not, and they're going to tune in, they're going to say, this is kind of interesting. And maybe they come because they're interested in how the technology works, and they stay because they think that it's really interesting what the guys are saying and how they're playing and what they're talking about and what you're learning from the experience.
True.
I think there's a little bit of a reason for a lot of different people to come and check it out, and then there's going to be different reasons of why they stay.
That's very well said. But you mentioned the technology there. This is the first time that we're gonna ever see golf played in an arena, the SoFi Center. State of the art, nothing like it, nothing technologically, scale-wise, nothing compares to it. Tell us about it.
It's big and it's intimate at the same time. I mean, what people tell us when they see it is they say, I had no idea it was this big. And they'll say, I had no idea that I can sit right here and they're playing right there. You will be able to see every single shot live in the arena. Just like when you're sitting on your couch at home, you're going to be able to see every single shot live on television. So the idea of combining technology to take a 200-acre golf course and condense it down into basically the size of a football field, so we can have every shot live, so we can put it in prime time, so we can have lights, music, player introductions, everything that you would get in a courtside NBA experience, but do it for golf. That's why the venue exists. It's not technology for technology's sake, or let's create this big venue, this big indoor golf venue. You want to be in prime time. You don't have to worry about weather. We want to do it in a place where the top players in the world can get to and keep their regular schedule on tour. The technology allows you to accomplish a lot of those things.
One thing that I've been awe-inspired by is just the size of that screen, man.
Yeah.
I mean, it is so huge, but at the same time, as somebody that dabbles in and out of trashness, it's still missable. I've missed that screen.
It happens.
Oh,
I mean, it's
God.
hard to say a 6-story building from 35 yards away can be missed, but it can be missed.
You know that when people say you couldn't hit the broadside of a barn?
There you go.
I can't sometimes.
Yeah, it's a broadside of a broad barn, too.
Yeah, it's a very broad barn. The broadest of barns.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Okay, so what are some of your long-term goals for TGL?
I think right now we are focused on season 1. I think as the technology continues to improve and get better and better, I think the experience will continue to improve and get better and better. And we're also going to hear from the players, the fans, whether you're watching inside the arena or you're watching on television or following along with social media. There are many things that come up that we can invest in and we can perfect and improve over time. The way it looks in season 1 will not be the way it looks, in the future. And we're okay with that. I mean, I think one of the things that you say is you're starting something from scratch. You can change it over time. You can improve it. Every sports league around the world has, does not look exactly the same as the way it looked when it first started. I think if we're doing things right, you're keeping one foot firmly rooted in kind of the traditions of the game, but you're also with the other foot, you're stepping into the future.
Right.
And we'll continue to do that along the way.
One thing I want to propose is just like an amateur TGL league for those who are not as gifted from a skill perspective, but that have very big personalities. And if you need somebody to pilot that program,
we'll find somebody. You can help me find somebody. Yeah?
Not where I was going with that. Understood.
I think there is any number of opportunities to be able to go and create other versions of this.
Sounds like a commitment to me.
There you go. Sure.
I'm taking it as that. All right, you mentioned, fans right here, players right here is big, but it's also very intimate. Tell me more about what fans can expect from the in-person experience at the SoFi Center.
You think about going to an NBA game, what that feels like when you're sitting close. The players are right there. You're in awe of these people that you've seen on TV for years, and they're right there in front of you. During warm-ups, guys are going to be hitting shots over here into the screen, and then guys are going to be chipping, and guys are going to be putting, and you're going to be able to see it all without getting out of your seat. And then once the competition starts, it's one shot at a time, so you don't have to choose where to be. You can see every single shot play out in front of you. 2 teams come in, they play, 1 team leaves a winner. So you get an outcome 2 hours later, which is something that sports fans, are very familiar with that. And the elements that we're borrowing from other sports, a shot clock, a referee, timeouts that you can use strategically to ice a golfer who's got a putt to win the match. Very familiar to sports. They know what a shot clock looks like in basketball and what a play clock looks like in football. And we've seen what it's done for baseball now that we got a pitch clock. Helps speed up the game. But every golfer would love to have a shot clock in their foursome with their group, because we all have got one guy that we know who we need to speed up, right? So shot clock can be a fan favorite. It's also going to create a dynamic on the team that's going to create some conversation. Some of it positive, some of it may not be too positive, but it'll create conversation, which is what we want.
Yeah. That's a good description of what it's like in person, but what about the experience for the people at home?
You've got people all around the world watching on television, sitting on their couch If you're in the Americas, it's prime time, it's nighttime, you've had dinner, you're settling in. It's when most people are watching TV anyway. From a sports standpoint, you're getting every single shot live playing out in front of you. So if you think about football, baseball, basketball, hockey, same concept. You're following the ball around the field of play. And what will be different from other sports, but really something that's been unique to golf, is you'll be able to hear from the players in the middle of play. And we all know, when we're watching golf at home and you can hear from the player when they're talking to their caddy, it's gold. Now they're going to be talking to their teammates, kind of thinking through their shot from a team standpoint, whether it's alternate shot or singles. There's a different dynamic there at play, but hearing from the players while they're on the field of play, I think, is going to be a really unique selling point. Plus, there's tons of data. I mean, there's data on every single shot. So if you got your phone in one hand, you're watching on TV, you got an iPad on the other, you've got all sorts of different digital experiences that you can take in. If you're into betting, there's a lot of data that'll be able to do it that way if you're in a state where it's legal.
Yeah.
Of course. But I think the opportunity, but I think the opportunity to just engage with all the different pieces of it, whether it's hearing from the players, seeing every shot live, what happens because of the shot clock, all of that is going to be something that fans who are sitting at home can experience.
I'm not a big fan of giving out broad compliments, but I do think that you solve for pretty much every gripe that I've had with traditional golf.
Thank you. But I bet you'll have new grapes when it's all said and done.
I look forward to bringing those to you.
Yeah, let's do it.
Look forward to that. Where can the fans tune in at home?
Starting on January 7th, ESPN or ESPN2. Everything's on ESPN+. Plus, if you go to the website or the app, tglgolf.com, you've got a Matchup Live, which gives you all the data that you could possibly want. And then every Monday, Tuesday night throughout January, February, and we wrap it up into March, a couple of weeks before the Masters.
All right, so what if I don't live in the States?
Yeah, if you go to pretty much any sports network where you would get PGA Tour or the majors or other sports in that country, most likely we'll have it, plus tglgolf.com or the app all around the world, and you can find it.
Mike McCarley, CEO of TGL, thank you for your time today.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Have you missed that screen as well?
No, I haven't actually.
Okay. Just me. You don't leave me hanging on that.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, that's fine. It is missable.
It is.